hive on July 1st. All right, go ahead and video what we see here. So they do this because we've got the extra space there. They hang out in there instead of bearding on the outside of the hive. So they go out here to remove themselves from over the brood to keep the brood from overheating. All right. Well, let's see. They are all over my hive tool. There we go. Let's let you go. Okay, go ahead and step back. All right, so just seeing what we can see easily. Have the spider board well glued in place. Let's move it back a little bit. Okay, you might come stand over this end without disturbing them too much. We can see this first frame. This is frame 11. They've now drawn it out to a significant degree. This next frame, that's now 10. You can see it if you get a low angle right through there. You can see the cells there, and I'll probably bring them on up as long as the bees aren't too upset. You can see that it has larger cells. I think they're doing that in brood comb. Now before I go on, I want to look at the bees that I see, and I'm looking at the wing shape. There's a virus that comes with a type of mite that plagues bees that causes the wings to be deformed. And the mites are too small to easily see, but you can see the deformed wings, and that's a good indicator that you might have mites in the hive. And I don't see any deformed wings, so that looks good. The bees seem healthy. Now that has a distinctive buzz that makes it sound big and scary, but it's the least scary bee because that was a drone, and that distinctive buzz is the way you know.
And so drones aren't looking to defend the hive.
Drones are lazy bums except when they're fertilizing the queen.
Ah.
They sit around and get fed by the other bees. And we will refuse the inclination to extrapolate to human patterns of behavior. All right. They're drawing this out, but they haven't put much of anything in it yet. And these are all worker bees.
That was the last one that you had put in?
Yeah.
So you're going from right here, right?
Yep, working towards the entrance end. And on these frames, we expect to see, first of all, they're less likely to be developed at this point in time, and they're also more likely to have resources stored instead of brood. Which is why it seems a little strange that this next one has what I think are brood cells.
So is the queen usually more in the younger part?
Yeah, the queen will normally be closer to the entrance, which is where she prefers to lay her eggs. Okay. Now this one is also still not fully developed, fully drawn. They are definitely laying nectar in, or depositing nectar in the cells. When it dries out sufficiently, it'll be honey. And Matt, if you zoom in, right up here, we see those cell sizes. Those are typically, if this were being used for brood, those would be worker bees. And you see how much difference, how much bigger these cells are? If they're used for brood, those would be drones. They can use either size to store honey. And so I think that's probably fine that they have that on this one. The thing you look for, now this side has some capped honey, a lot of nectar, and some of it's dry enough. And this is exclusively nectar. There's no brood on it. And I don't see any pollen on it either.
And so those larger bees, those are the drones?
Yeah, there's a good example of a drone. So this guy right there, you can, and that one right there, those are both drones. You can see that their wings are as long as their body. That's how you can tell them from a queen. The queen has a body that's longer than her wings by a significant degree. And the other way you can tell the drone is they have the huge eyes and they meet in the middle. And so this little guy, I could pick him up. If anybody wants to hold a drone, I could hand it, because they don't sting.
I'm tempted.
I'm not.
Well, he went back. I don't want to irritate one of the workers by trying to pick him up, but when he was right here on the edge, I would have been willing to do it. But,
It's just funny how they just keep working like you're like nothing.
yeah.
You know, you're flipping them
Yeah,
around.
the only thing I
turning
have to
them
be really
upside
careful about is, like, if I put my fingers on a bee and pinch as I'm manipulating the frame, then they'll likely sting me. All right, so that's 10.
down. Tell you out.
Okay, Matthew, look at the hive right here where my hand is. See that little black beetle over there on the back? Okay, it's right there.
Oh, yes.
That is a small hive beetle. And they are enemies of the hive, and we squish them. And as long as I only see one or two, it's no biggie. And I've got a trap down there. That is a Swiffer cloth. And it will try to entrap the small hive beetles. They get their feet stuck in the fuzz.
Good.
Okay, now you've been videotaping those last two frames, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what I want to do is I'll go back and compare the videos from last week to assess whether they're still adding to the resources or starting to draw down the resources. And if this summer gets so bad that at some point they're no longer really adding to the resources the way they should, or if they're drawing it down so much that I think they're going to have trouble making it through the winter, then I can go back to feeding them until hopefully fall weather or a cooperative hurricane brings moisture to central Texas again. Okay, this is honey, lots of honey. It is heavy. Now on video, I'll compare how deeply drawn this frame is and the percentage of it that is capped, and I'll be able to see if it's more full than it. Oh wow, look at that side.
That's crazy.
That is all honey.
And you're what, just three screens deep
Yep.
so far?
Yep.
And it'll get more and more towards the.
Well, yeah, looking at that next one. Okay, resources are not a current problem for this hive. I can tell that already.
That's what they do. They store honey for the winter.
Yes. And to feed the brood on an ongoing basis. Now, I haven't needed the smoke, but I need to give it a few puffs just so that it's still alive when I need it, if I need it. If I start to get in your way, Savannah, you can move over my left shoulder too. You have to be moving this direction. They are so calm. When I start to get into the brood sections, they might get a little more agitated.
Because you talk to them so calmly.
Yep. I sweet talk them.
I've only seen them back up one time.
Oh, I back up more often than that, but
Yeah, that one just has a lot of honey.
Yeah.
Just working their way down.
This one is almost completely drawn. This is frame 8 for comparison with past week's inspections. It's drawn almost all the way down. It is capped half the frame. Oh, what is? Oh wow.
Hmm?
So this is interesting. Right here in the center, there's a bee crawled all the way down into one of those cells. I don't know if she's taken resources. She's probably taken resources out because it looks like at the top.
This one?
Yeah, you just see her little rear end there.
Yeah.
You see another one who's partway down, but one's all the way in. So she is either putting more nectar in that cell or taking nectar out to go feed brood with it. Oh, okay. So some of the nectar, look, if you look at the top of that frame there, there's a drop here, there's a drop there. By turning it on its side like that, I let some of the nectar that was not dry enough to have the consistency of honey drip out.
Can we taste it?
Sure. Stick your finger down there. Mop it up. Now that, remember, it's not honey yet. That's frame 8. Good?
It's got like a, I don't know, almost a mapley flavor. It's gonna be good. It's a little thin. It's almost watery.
Yep.
But it's definitely got that honey flavor to it.
There we go. Unfortunately, we get the remains of some bees that have been crushed, putting the frames back together. All right, so from here on out, we're likely to see more brood. And in the past, it has seemed to me that they get more defensive. So no one will frown on you stepping back to a distance at which you feel safe. And by the way, if one starts pursuing you, persistently buzzing all around you, start walking towards that shelter. And sometimes you'll have to get almost back to that distance before they'll give up on you. All right, this is frame 7. Hello, bee. I'd like to put my finger there if you don't mind. I don't want to inconvenience you, though.
Wow.
Is that one much heavier?
What
It's
is
probably
on
about the
that
same
one?
weight as the last one.
That one's just to the end.
Now, this one does have some it is a brood frame, and all of those darker kind of orangish sandpapery looking cells, those are brood, except for some of them that are I can see some nectar in them, and some of them are uncapped brood. I can see the little larvae inside it.
So what does brood mean?
Brood
It's the
means
baby.
baby bees.
So the top would be holding honey, and the bottom, the darker, would be for their babies?
Yes. I'm going to try to stand this up here on the side so I can point some things out to you. Okay, Matt, bring the camera in. We've got uncapped brood right here. Now these bees may be putting nectar in cells, or they may be feeding larvae at the bottom. We can't tell until they back out. Somewhere up here, I noticed some more uncapped. So these, you can see they've started to build caps around those larvae. You can see the little white inside there that looks almost like a maggot. So they've started to cap those over, meaning they're very ready to be capped. And I thought I saw some up around here.
So if it's capped, does that mean that it's like transforming into?
That means they're about to go in. They have a pupa state just like a caterpillar does, and that means they're about to go into their cocoon. They spin their own cocoon on the inside of the cells.
And how
so-
long are they in there?
They are eggs for 3 days. They are larvae for 6 days, and then they are capped for 12 days, and then they emerge. It was right down here, right in these cells right here. You can see the little white larva curled up in a C shape, like a horseshoe shape. And those are brood.
Not sure the camera can get that well, but
Okay. Let's turn this around. These are being so patient with me today. All right, this side is brood too. Nectar and honey. What I don't see a lot of is pollen. I do see a little bit, but that is a little bit of a concern because the brood, pollen is a protein source, and the brood do need that protein. Now over here, under that bee, there's one cell that sticks way out like a bullet shape. And there's another one right there. Those are drone cells.
The big boys, huh? They need a
Yeah.
bigger room.
If they put them in a worker size cell, then they have to stick out further than all the rest of them. All right, this is frame 7. Get it turned around. I try to put everything back in the same orientation that I took it out. So I keep the numbering on this side. And when I go back, I try to slide it down one edge. And that way the bees get pushed to one side or the other, but they don't get squished. Then I have to wait for a few of them to get out of the way under the lip. And then I can let this side get seated down on the lip. And then I can drop this side in place. All right, now we'll look at 6. Now, at any point, if they get too testy with me now, I think I've pretty much seen all that I absolutely have to see this week. I've satisfied myself that they have adequate resources. They have drones, which is a sign of a healthy colony.
What are those little bugs running around on top?
Those are tiny little ants. And the bees, as long as there don't get to be too many ants, and these are not fire ants, so they're pretty harmless. Okay, now this frame could be interesting because you can see that it's been used for brood, but many of the cells right now are empty. That means we may have some eggs to see here. Lots of larvae, so they'll be capping this. So one generation of larvae has already hatched out of this, and another generation is being laid in. See lots of honey? I don't see lots of pollen. So I had thought that I might have to start feeding the bees sugar water, and I may instead, I'll talk to some of my beekeeping friends and see if it's advisable for me to start feeding a pollen substitute.
What would be the pros and cons of it? Like, is there any bad thing about that?
Well, my approach to beekeeping is natural. There's a big old drone that was flying back there.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're fending for themselves, I want them to fend for themselves because I think it's better for them.
Right.
All right, I do see some pollen these cells right in between the honey and the brood. There's a little bit of pollen here and there. There's some more down there. There may be more here than I've been paying attention to. That's a big old drone right there. You can hear the difference in his flight. There's another hive beetle I need to go after. Did I see the other side? I don't think I looked at the other side yet. Hello, drone. I'll even let you land on me and I won't budge. How's that for trust? I know what you're capable of. Alright, let me turn this around. I don't see the hive beetle anymore, so I won't chase it. This is the back side of frame 6. By the way, you can note that this frame is fully drawn out. And Matt, did you see the foundation I was at? Oh, you guys have the, pick that up for me. I don't think I need to add the, oh wow, melted right off.
What did I do?
You didn't do anything. It's just the sun. Okay, never mind. Let's try to retain as much. I don't know what to tell you to do about that. Let's just set it down in the shade somewhere and hope we can keep up with the foundation. Okay, we don't need more foundation yet anyway because that frame is so little drawn. All right, this side, first I'm looking for the queen because these...
I haven't seen her yet.
Yeah, I don't see any signs of a yellow dot. I do see uncapped brood. And hello, yes, I know you're there. I'm really not trying to irritate you. I hear you. Oh, lots of pollen down at the bottom. Can you see that?
I'm not sure what I'm looking for.
Right down here. This area is pollen.
Okay.
The orange cells.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Can I see eggs? Eggs are so tiny, they're really hard to see.
I think you're dropping honey or nectar on
Am I?
the top.
I'm willing to lick up anything. You guys should taste it.
I'm too scared to put my hand in there. Even on the top.
Hi, buddy.
I feel comfortable enough just to reach in it though.
Yeah.
That's about as far as I go. What would ever happen if you accidentally drop that thing?
We'd all run.
Really?
Yeah.
Very quickly.
And get in the car and drive.
Wasn't expecting you to say that. If he runs, I'm twice as fast.
Yeah.
That is good.
Yeah.
Anybody want it?
No, too scared. I can't lick it. I'm in a suit.
Oh, that's right. What was I thinking? The
So
drawbacks of wearing protection.
How far do you want to go until you start collecting?
The honey?
Yeah, like it's really thin right now, so
Well, you want it to all pretty much be capped.
oh yeah, all of these to be kept.
Well, all of the cells on one of the frames. So what I'm not going to draw any honey until we're basically ready to shut them up for winter.
Okay.
And at that time, I'm going to make sure that on each of the brood frames they have a little bit of honey at the top, as you've seen, and then the brood.
There's that beetle that's up top.
Dead beetle. And then, in addition to the honey on each frame, I'll want to make sure that there are at least one, maybe two frames purely of honey at this end and that end.
Okay.
And usually they'll eat the honey on each frame as they go through the winter. And then the ones on the end will be the food they need to get a fast start in the spring, just as things start to green up. Now, did I last show 5 or 6?
6. You were
All right.
working on getting 5 out.
All right, so this is 5. Now, I have seen enough, the queen must be, to cover this many frames with brood, she's laying plenty, she's doing a good job.
Oh, look, it's all the way out on the edge, too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this one was Oh, interesting. That's called burr comb.
There's
Where
a
they're-
lot of big ones in there.
The drones.
It looks like it.
Yep.
Did they run out of room and started just building more off to the side? Is that what they
Yeah,
did?
well, they just try to take advantage of any extra room that I leave them, and I probably didn't have the frames pushed together quite as tightly as I might have. There's the queen.
Oh,
How
awesome.
do you find her so fast?
Yellow dot. It's starting to wear off though. Can you see?
Point to her again.
Right there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Are you able to like redraw a dot on her, or?
Yeah, I could. I'd have to catch her, and I'd be cautious about wounding her trying to do that. It looks like she's trying to figure out where in the world can I lay, because a lot of these cells where eggs have hatched previously, the bees are storing nectar. So she's trying to find a good empty cell. So I may actually go ahead and add a frame. Well, I can't add the ones with that melted foundation. I may take one of those and move it at this end so that she has.
I guess
More
that's
room.
obviously that's why they're always trying to keep the hive cool, right?
Yep.
So that it doesn't melt the wax and all that.
Well, and they actually, yeah, there's some degree that they need to keep it from melting the wax, but also they need to keep a certain temperature for the brood. Boy, look at how much brood we have on this frame. Not how much brood, how many
Oh, you're
bees
dropping
we
a lot.
have
Yeah.
on this frame.
Dad, you're dropping a lot.
Okay. They'll pick it up. If I don't eat it on my fingertip, they'll find it and clean
You
it.
don't have a cup or anything, do you? I wanna,
You want to gather it all?
well, no, I just want to take a few drops back to the house to show my family and have them taste it.
Checking that bucket, I think I might have had a little cup. Yeah, it's probably not clean, but I'm not sure what I used that for. I just remember seeing it in there.
It's got some kind of powder on it. What would that be?
Oh, that would be diatomaceous earth. Yeah, you don't want to use that. It wouldn't be toxic or anything, but it wouldn't be good.
We'll just have to
Into
take
the
that.
car and take us off.
All right. I don't see anything that I need to comment on here, except it's a big old load of bees. I can't believe how many bees are on this side of that frame.
Yeah, that's insane.
And we saw the queen.
And we saw the queen.
Yeah, they're already after that nectar.
Yep.
The good stuff.
In a location with a where you've got an apiary where you've got lots of beehives,
Yeah, you're looking at it.
the bees from a different hive would very quickly smell that spilled honey or spilled nectar and start, if it's in the summertime when resources are scarce, they would start robbing. Another hive would come and start fighting for it and trying to take it. Are you just checking me out, or are you warning me to go away? I think you're just checking me out. I'm just a tree.
So are
just
they,
a funny
are they
red
eating
tree.
that, or are they kind of like picking it up and gathering?
They're going to be gathering it up and taking it, putting it back in cells.
I'm gonna get this. Oh, that's so good. So much better flavor than the store-bought stuff, huh? What would be the difference between the store-bought stuff and this?
Well,
they mass produce the store-bought stuff, or what?
it's from hives. It depends very much on what you get. You have to read the labels carefully.
Mm-hmm.
If you get honey from a foreign source, their standards on what can constitute honey are different. Now, the queen was on frame 5 looking for space to lay. She has filled this frame with brood.
So these are a very healthy hive, huh?
Yeah. And the empty cells are mostly uncapped brood. Not empty, but the cells that aren't covered there. If you look at this side, oh wow,
Wow.
that is all. Look at how much of that is capped. We are going to have an absolute population explosion in this hive very soon.
Will it be enough that you might need more space?
Possible.
Like more than this box, or just more cells?
More frames inserted.
If this box ever got too big or too small, what would you do then? Can you stack boxes or like give them another?
This type of hive is called a horizontal hive, in meaning that it is intended to be expanded horizontally, by adding more frames and filling the space that way.
Right.
I am not going to go into these last 3 frames.
Yeah.
Actually, I will. I want to look at the first one. But what the reason that we don't stack, because it seems that the bees will overwinter better if they have. So the types of hive that are designed for expansion by stacking, they usually have frames that are less deep, either here or maybe here, and these are pretty much the deepest frames that you'll find in common use here. And the thinking is, and this frame, and I'm sorry, this hive style was pioneered by a beekeeper in Europe. His name was Layens, and so this is called a Layens hive, and these are Layens frames. The idea is that the bees in winter will cluster here. These are deep enough that they can store a considerable amount of honey above the cluster, and as the winter goes along, they'll climb up, consuming the honey as they go. And so instead of expanding by, if you expand going up, now to access the extra space or the extra resources, they have to move through a gap between these frames to the frames up above. And especially in cold climates, they don't like to do that. And so I've heard cases where a beekeeper will find a dead cluster of bees. So there's pollen on this frame. So they may have to walk a little bit to get pollen to feed to the larvae, but they still have some. Okay, so it looks like they're keeping this frame mostly for resources, and then they've got several frames of brood, and then more resources at the other end.
So do you think you'll have to put the sugar water in there, or no? Just let them do
No,
their thing?
not in this one. Those are gonna be used for my other hive.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's still in your backyard?
No, we moved that to. Do you know David Crow at the church?
I think so.
He's got property out in the country, and he gave me permission to set a hive there. And I'm giving them time to move out of the way.
Was he the one that had he's trying to change his agricultural taxes?
No, that's a friend from a past church experience, and he's got property out in Cameron, and he's hoping that I'll help him with as many as 8 hives.
How's that going so far?
Well, he's going to have, for the first year, he's going to have to lease hives from somebody because we won't be able to find the bees
Lease?
this time of the year.
That's an option? That's a thing?
Yeah.
So like you can rent bees?
There are beekeepers whose entire business, they would rather not deal with honey. They would rather not deal with raising and selling bees. The way they make their money is to enter into lease agreements with landowners to maintain enough hives on the property to qualify for their agricultural exemption.
Wow. And what happens if the beehive dies?
It is the leasee, it's the beekeeper's job to make sure that they keep functioning hives there.
Oh,
So if you're a beekeeper doing that, you have to not only have the hives that you're leasing out, but you have to have some on standby so that if you have a colony loss, you can replace it quickly.
All right, so if I have land and I want to lease the bees from you,
Yep.
I would pay you. You come put your bees out on my property,
Uh-huh.
and then you'd come out there and take care of it.
Yep.
But I get the honey.
Well, that depends on the lease contract that's drawn up. Some of the beekeepers will say, nope, the hives are mine, the honey is mine. And some of them will say, in fact, I talked to one guy who says, you know, he doesn't like to harvest honey anymore. So he would say, sure, you can have the honey. You know, you have to pay them, you know, to make up for that revenue. So if I'm getting revenue from honey, all right, now I'm going to use a little smoke to encourage these bees that are in between the frames to move. Get out of the way, please. See, it's a fire. Don't you want to go deep inside the hive? Yeah, that's what I thought.
They were running in there. That's funny.
Run away, run away. You go, run away. Other way, other way.
And when you collect the thing, the honey, don't you put it in this machine that spins it around?
Well, that's one way.
Because I've seen it done at JW in Orlando that I worked at. They had bees out there, and they had that machine.
That's called an extractor. And if you have an extractor, it makes the beekeepers or the honey collector's job much easier. The other way that it can be done is that you can, now what I'm doing is closing it off so that they have the impression that this is the length of their hive, but they can crawl under this board or over this board to get in there, and that allows them to cool off, getting away from the other bees without climbing to the outside of the hive. All right, mission accomplished here. Oh, but the honey extraction. One way is to use the extractor. Another way is to uncap the frames. Like I would have a big tray set up and a frame that holds the honey at an angle, and I use an uncapper to scrape off the wax cap.
Is this a hot knife?
The hot knife is one way of doing it.
Yeah.
And then I'd flip that frame over so that it's now at a downward angle and wait about 24 hours for all the honey to drain out. And then I'll uncap the other side, flip it back over, let it drain. It's a real slow process to do it that way. The other approach, you know what, I'm not going to use this right now, but I want to keep this here so that if I need to feed them at some future time, it's easily accessible. I've already got 2 of these in the other hive where they're needing more feed right now.
Do you have anything else you need recorded on camera?
Nope, I think we can turn it off.
All
Thanks
right.
for watching.